One thing that you'll be able to smell here is cloves. It has a lot of cloves, like a peppery.
Yeah, I got that. I got the whole peppery vibe.
So the characteristic of this one is more of
John Joe. He knows his peppers. If there's anyone here knows his peppers.
No.
Okay, Crows Talk episode number 15. 15 or
16.
Oh, sorry. See, I drank some wine already earlier. Okay, episode number 16. We have with us our guest, younger or older brother of John Joseph? Younger or older?
I don't know, George.
Younger. Bunso.
Younger brother, Bunso. Okay, so George is here to educate us. So this is like a wine 101. So, you know, wine has always been very intimidating for me. And so I hope to, you know, get a little something out of this, right? I have so many questions and I want to go over that fear of not knowing what to order, you know, when I'm out in a restaurant or, you know, there's just so many wines out there. It's a whole learning process, right? I mean, I had my learning process with beer, so hopefully you can teach us about wine a little bit more. So George, tell us, I mean, you know, who you work for.
Wine is very subjective.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna go over it, but there's still, if you don't like it, somebody else might like it. It's just like beer, right? I mean, I love my double IPAs. But then some of my friends feel like it's like they're eating ampalaya, right? I mean, you know what I mean? It's subjective also. But, you know, there are things that we want to learn, right? We want to learn. So, George, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into wine. Yeah.
Yeah, I work for Philippine Wine Merchants. So Philippine Wine Merchants is a family-owned company. It's owned by my uncle Ralph Joseph. I've been working in the company for 10 years. I started from marketing and moved up to sales and marketing. Now I'm the head of on-trade sales on-premise. I started in the business because, of course, where wouldn't you like a company that pays you to drink every night and party and socialize with your friends? And at that time, I was a promoter. And I was promoting for the club, so I would also sell alcohol to the club owners and tell the friends that I invited to drink the booze, and I get paid twice.
Nice.
By the club and the booze.
But then your experience to wine per se, I mean, you know, Ralph, I mean, you move a lot of different kind of liquor, but then you mainly do wine, am I correct? I mean, that's why Philippine Wine Merchants.
Yeah, our forte is actually New World wines, but we do have Old World wines as well. And we also have now sakes. We have imported beers as well. And of course, we have spirits like Stolichnaya vodka as well. So that was our mother brand since the beginning.
Okay, let's start with this question.
Ralph's, by the way, is our retail store.
With New World wines vis-a-vis Old World wines, I need to know, where is the line? So when you say something is New World wine, where's the line drawn?
Basically, Old World wines, they all have appellation or rules. So basically, you have Spanish, where you have Joven, Crianza, Gran Reserva, Reserva. So these are all rules that you have to go through in order for a wine to be categorized at a certain label. Just like French, you have Grand Cru Premier, Grand Cru Classé. So they all have these certain rules that they follow, especially with like Italian, they have DOC, DOCG. So this is all Domination, Olere, Contrale, which is like rules that they develop to ensure that the quality of the wine is at par. And of course, that other people are not sharing their wines. Basically, before they were very snooty about the winemaking process. While here you have New World wines like Australia, New Zealand, Chile, where the rules have been broken. And as you can see, now grapes started becoming blended. So you have Cab Shiraz, Cab Merlot, which before, of course, it was a no-no.
Okay, so they're basically the purists. the purist, right? So it's like they
Basically,
follow certain
basically
rules.
they follow yeah, they follow a certain procedure in the winemaking process.
Okay, I mean, John
And they
Joe,
can
I
only
think,
grow certain grapes in their region. They can't
Yeah.
venture out.
It's like champagne. You can only call it champagne if it comes
yeah,
from that region.
exactly. Like tequila can only be called tequila because it's made
That's
there.
correct. Yeah.
You even have food, Italian food with the DOP for the olive oil because it's from there, or this type of cheese. So it's like calling it their own, right? Their ownership of
Correct.
that thing, right? It's like a certified Angus, so to speak, right? So okay, that's okay. See, I never knew that, right? So I'm glad
Correct.
I'm
That's
learning.
very much correct.
Yeah, so now I'm learning, right? Because it's like in craft beer, you have this old purists who follow a certain type of rules, but then it's gone crazy. I mean, craft beer have so many different styles now, blends, styles, crisscrossing of styles. You go crazy. Every year, they always have something new. So I guess in the wine world, the new world
Something new.
wines,
Yeah.
yeah, there's always something new. There's the blends and all that. That's very
It's
interesting.
it's non-traditional, basically.
Okay. And
But
but it
yes,
doesn't
basically,
make
content.
it
And
cheap.
I'll tell you this.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't make it cheap. And I'll tell you that, okay, the new world always has something new, right? But the old world also has something new. That's why it's good to know about the vintage of the bottle, the year the grapes was harvested, because in old world wines, they really take into consider the climate when the grapes were growing that period, if there was a lot of rain or if there was a drought. Hence, the value of the wine can go up or down.
Right.
So
So it's like a
that's how they
stock. I
make
mean,
something new as well.
there's like a stock market for wines. I mean, it depends on the year and all
Yes.
that, right? So another word you mentioned, vintage. So vintage is all about the year the grape was
That the
harvested.
grapes were harvested.
So
Yeah.
it's not when the wine was made. It's not. It's when the
No, not when the
grapes.
wine was bottled. When
Okay,
the grapes were
okay.
harvested. Yeah.
Is there like a time? Is there like a huge lull between the time the grapes were harvested to the time the wine is made?
No, actually, harvesting usually is August or September, and after they pick the grapes, sort the grapes, they do the fermentation process right away, and then of course the wines are matured in oak barrels or steel vats for at least 4 weeks, or depends on the wine, some 4 years. So
Interesting,
and then it's
interesting.
bottled and then it's sent to us.
And here's something I want you to see, right? I didn't even know this. I was wondering when I would pass some vineyards when we would have our trips, right? And the grape. It starts with the grape, right? So the grapes we get from
Yes,
the grocery store is not the damn grape
are
they
not
used
for
to.
winemaking.
I always thought it's just one and the
That's
same
correct.
thing,
Yeah.
right? So a grape is a grape is a grape.
No.
Apparently not, right? So they're smaller, thicker skinned. They've got seeds on them. They look, yeah, very, very different from the ones we
There's
have in
actually
the, yeah.
10,000 different grape varieties. So the most
Wow.
common that we know are the 18 noble grapes. These are the ones that we train in WSET as well and learn about. So these are the ones that
Interesting.
have made their mark in the wine industry.
Okay.
But there are 10,000 different varietals out there.
Okay, so I wanted to make this as simple as possible because wine appreciation, it's like a rabbit hole. You can go through so many different legs. And I just wanted to,
Yep.
I got some slides off the internet just to see how to break it down, right? So here's one. Let's talk about characteristics, right? I mean, in beer, you've got hoppy, you've got all these different characteristics that we have in beer. Now in wine, you have your sweetness, you have your acidity, you have your
Acidity,
tannin,
tannin.
yeah, alcohol and body. I mean, I guess this is the
So
simplest.
basically for sweetness, you only have either sweet or off dry
Okay, yeah.
or off sweet.
Here's another chart, right? I mean, it's like I noticed it's like bone dry, semi-sweet, and then sweet, right? So you've got the upper part. Well, I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
It's very small, but then I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, okay, let's talk about sweetness here. So you can go from bone dry, which is like,
Yes.
what's this? I don't know, French Malbec, all the way
No
up
sweetness
to
at all.
no sweetness at all the way to port wine, right? Which is so damn sweet. It's like it's like sugar.
Yep.
Right. So and you've got
Yeah, the reason for that is because the fermentation process takes longer.
So the
And
longer
after
the
the fermentation
fermentation,
process, port. No, not just that. Because port and tawny are fortified wines. So after 14% alcohol, when the yeast eats all the sugar, converts it into alcohol, they fortify it by adding grape sugar into the wine again to strengthen the alcohol content. That's why there's a residual sugar or sweetness that comes into it.
Okay. It's like compounding. I guess, we have that also in rum making and all that. There's some distilleries out there that add back some sugar after the sugar has been taken over by the yeast, right? So interesting.
Basically, fortified wines are in between winemaking and brandy. Brandy is 36%, so fortified wines are in the 17 to 22% alcohol range.
Okay, in fact, we're going to get to that. So before going to the alcohol range, how about acidity? Okay, so in the scale of measuring acidity, it's basically 0 to 14, right? 7 being the most neutral, which is water. So wine is wine is acidic, right? So
depends on the grape that you're using.
Okay, but I mean, how does acidity affect wine?
Well, of course, basically your white wines will be more acidic because you want the citrus refreshness of the wine, and this makes you salivate. So for restaurants, they like this because the more you salivate, the more you tend to eat. So it's also a characteristic of white wines. White wines are really good. Yeah, basically white wines are refreshing acidity, or we call it crisp.
Okay.
While in red wines, the acidity dictates how long a wine can be preserved or can stay in the bottle. So the ones that have lower acidity can age longer in the bottle for 5 to 10 years.
Okay. So that's interesting. That's interesting about keeping wine, right? Because a lot of people have this notion that, man, I'm gonna keep it, and store it for
for my daughter's birthday.
Exactly. But then it's the wrong bloody wine. So can you repeat that about aging? I know I have a slide somewhere there. We're supposed to discuss aging wine. You don't really age the wine, do you? I mean, does the characteristic actually change?
Yes. So to be honest, so the wine bottles now, most of them are twist cap. So the ones that you want to age are really the ones that are in cork. So even if there's a cork and there's a foil in it, remember that your cork is porous, so oxygen can still come inside the bottle. This allows the wine to develop over the years. And sometimes they'll tell you like it's 2 to 3 years from the date it's bottled, and that's the prime of the wine. But you can store it for additional 2 more years just to see if the wine will develop or transform into a better character. Because the winemaker intentionally puts cork for oxygen to come in.
Okay, so what works better for aging? Is it red or white, or it depends on the acidity? Red.
So red wines are the ones that you always age. Red is matured with age, while us guys, we're like the white wines, young and fresh.
Okay. So I got it. Okay. So basically, when you've got whites, you don't age that. You drink that. I mean, you take it out there.
Yeah, even rosés.
Even rosé. Rosé is like slightly pink, right? It's like slightly pink. Okay, interesting.
So these ones are something that you have to drink at least 1 to 2 years from the vintage of the wine.
So if it's a 2017, you drink it within up to 2019.
By 2019.
Okay, got you. Okay, now tannins. Here we are. We're talking about tannins. I took a definition, so it has to do with polyphenols. Polyphenol. I had to check this out because this is like wild, right? It's like total chemistry. Okay, that's why wine can get really, really.
Yeah. So basically,
here. So I took some examples of wine tannins. Yeah, very technical. So this is a very
so
basic.
Basically, your wine tannin is Your wine tannin only comes from red grapes because the tannin comes from the skin of the grapes. And
Okay.
during the fermentation process of red wine, you include the skins, and of course the seed is included in the fermentation. You
Right.
press and crush the grapes immediately to extract the juice, and then you ferment the juice. So
Okay.
there's no
And then
skin
and then
contact for the white wines.
but okay, so there's nothing on the white wine. But then it further goes into an oak barrel, right? And the oak wood also has some of
Yes.
those tannins, correct?
And
Okay, now look at this.
so
This
talking
next
about
slide
that,
is
the wine that
total geek, man.
Wow.
so the wine that we will
Okay,
be
this is
trying
nuts,
today, we have
right?
a white wine.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The white wine we'll be trying today, the Viognier. So the
Yes.
Viognier, the winemaker will tell you that you'll have phenols, and the phenol is the one that creates a white tannin. They call it the white tannin because basically white grapes have no tannin. But she says because of the phenols, the hydrogen compound, and its aging process in the barrel, like you said, then the wine tends to get a longer finish, which comes from the white
Okay.
tannins.
Now these are these phenols. I just took slides off, right? I said there are about 12 of them here. And each one is really interesting because each of these
Yes.
phenols have I mean, look at that, like terpenes. You've got the lychee flavor coming out of terpenes, right? Or this other one, volatile acidity. You got
The
pickles coming out of that. I mean, it's so mind-boggling, John Joe. I mean, that's why.
Mhm.
So sometimes when I have these guys drinking wine and they start uttering, "Oh, pickles! I smell, taste leather." All these things,
Or wet
and
socks.
or wet socks, man. I mean, there you go. I mean, I've seen. Look at that: white flour, banana,
well,
raspberries.
the most common is lactones
Lactones. Okay, where
in
the
the
hell is that?
bottom.
Bottom
Okay,
That's the
middle.
most
lactones.
common one.
You've got
Yeah.
vanilla, caramel, coconut, and hazelnut coming out of lactones. Holy shit. I
Yeah.
don't know. John Joe, we don't have stuff like that. Or maybe I haven't done my research enough on
For
beer
beer?
making. Yeah.
There's a taste chart, but what I've noticed from some reviewers, they go off the chart because there's some stuff that's local. Like for example, for Philippine taste, when they say, oh, it has a little bit of turon or a little bit of
Yeah, dude.
saba.
Some of these guys, they feel like they're sommeliers, right? And they utter all kinds of shit that they taste or smell. But, and they sound like, wow, I'm so fucking intimidated just listening to them, right? But anyway, but that's a fact, George. I mean, those phenols
Yeah.
really give off those characteristics. Okay, here we are. Look at this
They
alcohol
give off these
line,
aromas.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, let's go to alcohol. We were discussing earlier. So you've got beer from, session beers from 3% to 5% up to 8%, all the way to 50%, which is the cask strength whiskey. Now, wine hovers around
Yep.
12 to, what's that, 12% to
15.
about 15%. Is there a reason why?
Yeah.
Okay, tell us about that.
So basically, during the fermentation process, most wines, when the yeast consumes all the sugar and converts it into alcohol, the maximum alcohol percentage is 14.5 or 15. And then the yeast finishes all the alcohol, and because the alcohol is at 15, the yeast dies and floats on top.
Okay. Okay. You know what, John Joe, this reminds me of when we
If
make
you're
our brandy, it's the same thing. When we make our brandy out of fruit, I mean, remember, wine is basically like making, well, you don't distill it, right? So you're fermenting fruit, right? So it's a wine. You can have mango wine, you can have all kinds of wine, but anything made from grape is wine, right? That's the wine we all know, right?
yeah.
Okay. So interesting. So interesting. It's all hovering
So
around
if your
that.
wine goes lower, like you usually have some white wines that are 8 to 11%. You'll notice why it's 8 to 11% because some winemakers want to keep the residual sugar. So what they do is they cool down the steel vat to kill the yeast and stop the fermentation to save the remaining sugar in the wine. Hence, you have your Moscatos, you have your Rieslings that are sweet because they keep the
Exactly.
residual sugar. But because of stopping the fermentation process, the alcohol level is only 8 to 11%.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, John Joe, when we make our mango eau de vie, which is mango brandy, we purposely
Brandy.
also don't want to ferment 100% of the sugar because there's nothing left. There's no point in distilling something that's pure alcohol, then you're just gonna get ethanol, right? So we want the characteristics of mango to be present, and the only way is to cut short the fermentation so you've got the characteristics of the mango, right? So because when you pass through a still, you're stripping everything out. You're taking most of the characteristics. Yeah.
And
Okay.
twice.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's talk about boldness, George. Let's talk about boldness. So here we have two charts. You've got the red wine boldness and the white wine. Okay. Now, what do you mean when you say a wine has more boldness in it? Is it the color? Is it the hue of the color?
Usually it's the color, and it's also the we call it the body of the wine. So you have light body, medium body, and heavy body or full body wine. So
Okay.
it's basically also the character of the grape. It gives a lot of character. It gives a lot of weight to the body of the wine or the weight of the wine. So you'll
Okay.
notice like your most lightest grape that's popular is Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir is actually a red grape, but they use for champagne, which turns out to be white because they remove the skins during
Oh, I didn't know
fermentation,
that.
hence giving you a white champagne.
I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
And
What
then
is,
after
wait, wait,
that,
wait
you
a minute.
have
I'm
maybe
hearing something.
more.
I'm hearing something. It's like, I don't know. John Joe, did you hear it?
I heard it too. It sounded like a flushing. What's that? That's why I stood up. I actually left because
I was gonna ask you, is there somebody there flushing the toilet, dude? I mean, it's like, what is that? What is that?
That means
Okay.
John Joe left earlier to use the bathroom and then flushed.
no, I actually left to close the windows because the trucks are passing by the construction. But I don't know where that flushing sound came from.
Okay. No one's flushing no toilets. So if that sound comes back, it's just it's the internet. Okay, go ahead, George. Talk to us about talk to us about the boldness of wine.
So basically, then you have a Merlot, which is your everyday easy drinking wine. And then you have your Malbecs or your Cabernet, which is a full flavored red wine, has more body, has more texture to the wine. And then after that, you have darker grapes or bolder that you have Petit Verdot. So for me, it's one of my favorite grapes, Petit Verdot. For white wines, on the other hand, the body or the boldness of the wine will either come from its acidity or its character from if the grape is aged in oak, if it has a higher alcohol content or more acidity. That's how the boldness for white wine is categorized.
Okay, George, I gotta ask you this because we've had a number of guests and we've discussed many things about drinkability, right? I mean, when are you a mature drinker for whiskey? When are you a mature drinker for beer? Like for example, I mean, when I started drinking beer growing up, it was the commercially available beer, no taste. It's just the alcohol, and then I started getting into the hoppy craze, right? I started looking for the hoppier beers, and I look forward to that, right? Now you got the whiskey guys who basically start off with their whiskey journey, and then some of them end up with the peatiest type of whiskey that smells like shit, right? But it's like, for them, it's like, wow, you know what I mean? Lafroig, I love this shit, you know what I mean? So now with wine, is there a journey? Is there some sort of like, you come in, you're a newbie, you want to drink something, oh, this is easy, right? Is there something you look for? Is there a similar journey to wine?
Well, for wine, you'll have to look for the icon wine. So each winery, of course, has the icon wine that they're prestigious about. So basically, like you have Yalumba, and Yalumba has the Y series collection, which is the entry level. And then after that, you have the Samuel's collection, which we'll be trying. And of course, they have the signature, which is the only wine in the world that has the signature mark on a certain employee that they want to give credit to, or a winemaker who has made its mark. So to the old world wine community, this has never been thought of. Putting a name of a winemaker who has, in a bottle of a wine, so that vintage becomes theirs. So I think for the wine company will be trying now, that's the mark that they're looking for. But in general, I just like to make cuento. So the Philippine market actually started with just white wine and red wine. It was table white wine, table red wine. Then it became dry and sweet. Then after dry and sweet, it became sweet Merlot, sweet Cabernet, sweet Sauvignon Blanc. And then now it's like we already have matured into the sweet wine. And now Filipinos are drinking already Merlot, Cabernet, Sauvignon Blanc, Shiraz. At least those four grape varieties, they're already selecting, I want that. And now it's going more advanced to, I want this vintage, and I want this region. I want a Chardonnay from Australia. No, I want a Chardonnay from France. Then that's when you can see the evolution of education.
But
Okay,
they
yeah, it
more
makes
often than
sense.
not they start with the sweet, diba? Rather than dry.
Yes.
That's the Pinoy
They always start
flavor.
with sweet
They like that. They
because they
like the
think
sweet.
that they think the red wines are all bitter.
Yeah.
That's really what their perception to red wine. Apang matanda yan. That's how it was before.
No,
Yeah,
I
it's like
mean, yeah, it's like, yeah, you're right, Janjo, because sometimes, you get this red wine and you think, oh, red wine, okay, let me have some wine. You don't know anything about it, man. You just take it. And it so happened what you had, your first, experience to the red wine was something really, with so much tannin and dry, and you're not used to that. So you're like,
Yep.
dude, this is not a good first time experience to wine,
yeah,
right?
I've actually witnessed some blasphemous practices back in the day where they
Yes.
put Sprite, they mix wine with Sprite to make it
Sprite.
sweeter. Yeah.
Oh,
That's the
They
newbies,
do
like
it.
young crowd. Young crowd likes to do that.
that's bad,
Yeah,
man. That's
Josemari, they
bad.
make it like pacharan. They make it like
Oh
pacharan
man,
with Coca-Cola.
that's
Yeah.
terrible, man.
It's
But
like
yeah,
how we have the local Pinoy spaghetti. It's called spaketchup because it's ketchup and a lot of sugar.
exactly,
That's
man. Our spaghetti is dessert. It's not a meal. It's, here we
Oh, don't be
go.
trashing
Okay.
on
One
Jollibee spaghetti, bro. I love Jollibee spaghetti.
Mr. Jollibee right here, man.
but
Okay,
one
so
thing though is
yeah, go ahead.
one thing though that they don't do when they try wines is wine has to be accompanied by cheese or food. Remember that. That enhances the experience of drinking wine. I think that would be something that differentiates it from spirits. Because in spirits, you can drink it alone and enjoy it. While with wine, it's good on its own, but if you pair it with food, it even becomes better when it's complemented with food.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So okay, like here, these are the more common types of wine, right? So you've got your Riesling, which is like really light and sweet, and then it goes all the way to the Chardonnay, like you were saying, which is dry and well, I say more bold or more
it's crisp.
rich, yeah, crisp. And then for the red one, you've got the
Yeah,
Pinot. Yeah, go ahead.
so basically, your Chardonnay is actually more riper fruit. So as you can see, it has a golder color, while your Sauvignon Blanc is more of citrus fruits. And then your Pinot Grigio and Pinot Gris is also citrus fruits, but on a lower acidity level. While your Riesling, there's two kinds. There's a dry Riesling, which you call Trocken, and then you have your sweet Riesling, Spatz
Okay.
Lacy.
Okay, so then here you have, okay, here are some type of wines that are out there, and I got one bottle from you tonight, and we had it, we enjoyed it, the Zinfandel. Because I was trying to figure out,
Yes.
okay, before we start this podcast, we had dinner, and I said, okay, we're gonna have that, the nice rack of meat, that's roasted meat. So I said, okay, let me try something that's not too much on the tannin. And yeah, this is the first time I've had a Zinfandel. I didn't even know it existed, right? So it was very good, and
So I
I
sent
think
you
yeah,
I sent you actually a Francis Ford Coppola Diamond Collections in Fandel. So this is from
yeah.
the well-renowned Hollywood director Francis Ford Coppola.
which is,
So
by the way,
Zinfandel,
yeah, it's a good friend of Iken. Well, no, they were, you know, he had a chance to meet him personally in school. So I said, when you showed me that Francis Ford Coppola, I said, okay, we're getting that. I didn't know he owned he has his own
but the funny thing
winery.
there's, yeah, his family is Italian, but then when they moved to California, they bought a winery to continue his grandfather's winemaking process. So it
Oh,
has actually Italian heritage, but being produced in California wine style. So that's
oh,
one
okay.
unique
So
thing about
it's not like one of those celebrity wines where they just slap their names on
And
products.
like,
endorsement.
yeah. So you have Cabernet Sauvignon, you would have a Montes Cabernet Sauvignon from Chile. This would be your full flavored Cabernet Sauvignon. Then you would have a Syrah or Shiraz. Miramima white label Shiraz for this one. Something
Okay, wait.
peppery. So if you have
Syrah
sauce on
is
your
Shiraz.
baby back ribs,
Syrah is
yes.
Shiraz.
Just
The
depends
same
on the
thing.
region it's pumping.
Okay,
Same
okay.
thing,
Now I
just
get it.
different region.
Okay.
Then you have your lighter Zinfandel, which you had the Coppola. And then after that, you have your Pinot Noir, which is basically the grape that you use for your champagne. So if it's in a red wine, your Pinot Noir would promote our French like Bouchard Fairfields Pinot Noir, Lavigny.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this
Okay.
is a good
Here,
lineup actually
yeah, and
for
then
a flight of red wine.
yeah. And how about here for white wine? For white wine.
So for Chardonnay, that will be your more ripe fruit flavored white wine. And then you have your Sauvignon Blanc. I would go for a Montgras Sauvignon Blanc. We have our premium Amaral for Montgras. And for Riesling, of course, I would go with our Heart to Heart or Guntrum Royal Blue Riesling. And then for Pinot Grigio, I would choose, of course, Yalumba Pinot Grigio Y series for myself. That's my personal. Others will say, of course, if you're getting a Pinot Grigio, you should get it from Italy. But I think the Australians make a damn good Pinot Grigio.
Interesting. See, so I mean, each one it's really a subjective thing, which is good to know. So George, yeah, can you take us through? You know, one of the most intimidating things about a bottle of wine are the labels, right, on the bottle. There's just so much information that's on the bottle that I just wanted to let you walk through what basically do you look for, what kind of information do you look for that's significant in the bottle of wine, in the label.
Well, when you're reading a bottle of wine, it's good to know, of course, the brand name, and then the varietal of the grape, the vintage of the grape, and after which every back label of a bottle always has tasting notes. So it also tells you the percentage alcohol. So don't be intimidated by the label. What you have to look for, of course, is the wine that you're looking for. So this one is a French wine label. So as you can see, in this label, it tells you the appellation of the bottle, and then it also tells you the region where the um, the grape is grown or the wine is produced. So as you can see, it's from a Chablis. So your wine would be a Chardonnay, and this is from Bourgogne.
Okay, when you
And
say
so
Chablis,
this
when you're saying Chablis
would
is a
fall under
Chardonnay, is that the same thing?
Burgundy wine. Yeah, Chablis. Yeah, Chablis Chardonnay, and Bourgogne is the region within Burgundy where this wine is produced. And then you can see it's 13% alcohol.
Okay,
And as
here's
you
a
can
more
see,
modern
see,
one.
I told you there's different levels. Your crew,
Yeah.
there you go. So this one, it still has the same thing. As you can see, it has appellation contralé, which is the rules governing it. And then after that, you have Vin de Bourgogne. So that means it's also produced in Bourgogne. So this is also but this one is a Fusé. So this is a Polyfusé white wine. It's also made from Chardonnay as well.
Okay. Okay. And then
And
of
then
course the
this one is
alcohol.
12.5% alcohol.
Yeah.
And 2003 is the vintage year when the grapes were harvested. Macon Village is basically the name of the wine.
Okay, so that's the name of the wine. Okay, got it.
Yeah, other
Interesting.
people will say villages, but in France it's village.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's just a default English word, right? Okay, so you brought us some wine. Maybe now
You
we
know
can
that
start.
I have
Yeah.
the most people say
What are you saying? Sorry. Go ahead.
most people, the mistake they have, especially for the people who are in introduction to wine, is John knows this Merlot,
Merlot,
which is
yeah.
basically Merlot.
It's very, very Pinoy, dude, to say
So
Merlot.
today,
Meron ba kayong Merlot?
so the first wine we'll be trying tonight is actually a Viognier. So the spelling is Viognier.
Okay, so this is the
So
one
it's
with the
a unique
yellow
grape.
cap. Okay, so this one we'll try. Okay, guys,
Yes.
let's try this out. So this one, okay.
So since we're producing wine kits, so this is basically 90 ml of wine, which is one serving, since one bottle is divided to 6.
So this is really
So
light.
the first
I
thing
mean,
you want to do is you want to smell
wow.
your wine before swirling it.
Oh,
It
before
smells
you
like
Then
aerate it.
after smelling
it
it,
smells like champagne, man. I mean, this is what I'm getting. A champagne-esque. Okay,
then
swirl.
after you swirl, so now the smell should open up and change for you guys after
Yeah.
you swirl the wine. So as you can see in my glass, the wine is quite over chilled in my end. So for me personally,
Yeah.
I always say it's okay to over chill your white wine, because a white wine you can always use your body temperature. Just hold the glass, and you can lower the temperature. But then if it's hot, you can't make it cold. You can only make it warm. So it's okay to
Yes.
over chill. The only bad thing about over chilling is you lose the character of the wine and it tastes like water. So you want to keep a little of that perfect temperature at least 9 degrees Celsius.
Which is same thing with beer, guys. So those people who are drinking below zero beer, I'm sorry to say, they just all want to get shit faced. Because I'm telling you, you don't taste shit when it's below zero. Okay? If you want to taste the beer you're drinking, do not drink it below zero. I mean, that's the biggest
Zero.
blah blah. You know what I mean? That's why they say, ang sarap nito, ang sarap. Of course, it's so cold, it goes straight into the belly. Okay, oops, I splashed some.
Kasi
Okay.
malamig, yeah.
And then why
So
do some...
basically the first
Oh.
sip that you take,
Mhm.
it might not be the most appealing to you because it may have been like John just had a cigarette. So the smoking is a factor. You may have had ribs, Mari, so that's also a factor. You may have not brushed your teeth, or you may have eaten something spicy. So these are all factors. So what's the good thing about taking the first sip of wine? Never judge your wine from the first sip. Allow the first sip to coat your mouth and make a layer of the wine. Hence, your second sip is the appreciation sip.
Wow. Dude, I don't know if this is all really getting to me, but wow, man. I'm enjoying
So,
this shit.
so this white wine is
I feel
basically
very
you get
classy
some.
right now,
I
guys.
feel,
I'm
You have to
feeling
have your
quite
big
classy.
dude, I'm probably using the wrong glass too, man. But anyway.
Cheers to that.
So basically, this one you should get stone fruit flavors and a little bit of a ginger kind of aroma. So that's the uniqueness about the Viognier. And
Okay,
this pairs well with a lot of your Asian cuisine foods, even couscous, Moroccan foods as well. Um, so this Viognier actually was grown in the vineyard of Samuel Smith in Yalumba, 1800s, and it's the first Viognier to be planted in Australia. So it's over 170 years of winemaking they're celebrating this year. And
Wow.
to highlight that,
Show us
the
the
sixth
bottle. Show us
generation
the
in
bottle,
the
man. Show us the bottle.
family has created this collection.
Oh,
So
there
this
it
is
is.
the Samuel's collection, Pionnier Eden Valley. So remember that Barossa region has two areas, the Eden Valley and the Barossa Valley. So this one comes from the Eden Valley.
So is it
This is
high? Is it
13.5%
higher?
alcohol. It's
Is there
100% vegan-friendly wine and uses 100% wild ferment.
okay? I have a question. Does it matter like the elevation, like coffee, right? Does it matter to the grape?
Yes, it does matter in the winemaking process as well. The elevation causes where off off the wind. I mean, coming from the coast or off the coast. So it plays a factor also in the. That's what we call terroir, which is basically the region or the area or the nature where the grapes are being grown. We call that the terroir. So that plays a big factor into making. When people ask me what makes wine good, I always say terroir. Then they just give me a blank face and say, I don't know what that is. And then that opens up the
Isn't
conversation for me to discuss everything.
Yeah, exactly.
isn't
Terroir.
terroir another word for, well, another way of saying terrain? The
Yeah, but
terrain.
it
Terrain,
doesn't
yeah,
sound
but then you say
romantic, dude.
region,
Yeah, it
the
doesn't sound
terroir.
romantic. The
Yeah,
terrain. I
Yeah.
mean, the terrain. Think about
yeah. So
that. Terroir. Now, when
yeah.
you say terroir, it's a whole
Ah,
fucking different ball game, right?
what's that? I don't know that. Then yeah. So this one is aged 10 months in barrel and 10 months in stainless steel.
I don't know.
This
I'm
is
having.
95 points in decanter.
I'm trying to get the aroma, but my deviated septum seems to be on the way.
So basically, I mentioned also to you guys earlier, so this is a vegan-friendly wine. So I actually started some vegan nights. My brother's aware of that. And he said, but you're not a vegan. I said, yeah, I'm not a vegan. But then I have a lot of friends who are vegan. And a lot of people ask me, isn't wine made from grapes? So why is it not vegan? And why is there vegan and non-vegan? So because of this, I researched and found out that most of your grapes use pork protein, albumin egg whites, casein milk, or fish bladder as the fining agent because you don't want murky wine. You want clear wine. So they use this as a magnet to latch down all the unwanted sediments in the bottom. So now,
Okay.
starting 2012, starting 2012, Yalumba has pioneered the way into making vegan-friendly wines without using animal products. So they use bentonite. So
Mhm.
bentonite is basically your facial mask and John Joe's most sought-after kitty litter.
Okay.
And that's
There
why
you
our,
go.
our beer is vegan friendly, because I double checked and we do use synthetic also. We don't That's why Crow's beer
Yeah.
is vegan friendly, and we have participated in a vegan night.
Yeah, we don't use any bladders and all that
Yes, I
shit
know.
for Okay. So
Well,
interesting.
the good thing about uh, the good the good thing about vegans is it's only for wine that they have a limitation. Any spirit that has a higher alcohol is vegan friendly as long as it has no honey. And some vegans will
Uh,
contest that honey may be or may not be vegan. It depends how hardcore they are.
dude, come on, man. Honey, vegan, non-vegan. What's that? It's not like milk from a cow. I mean, jeez. It's like,
Came from bees, eh?
Save the bees.
Save the
Dude,
bees.
Save the
hardcore.
bees.
Hardcore. Okay, what's the next? The next one. What's that? What are we doing? The blue cap, the red, the brown cap.
The brown one.
Okay, the brown one, guys. Okay. Okay.
So the brown one, you'll see, it has like a strawberry color.
Yeah. It looks like cough syrup.
It looks very light. It looks very light, but when you try it, it has a punch. So
Yeah,
the
it's
vines
really
of
light.
these ones were planted in the 1800s. Over 100 years old grapevines for this one, 14% alcohol, also vegan friendly, also wild ferment. This is 93 points in James Suckling. So this is a Barossa Valley red wine.
Okay, what type
So
of
you can
grape?
smell.
What type of grape is this, George?
This is a Grenache.
Grenache.
This is a Grenache. Yeah.
So yeah, it does have it looks like it's gonna be heavy in the mouth, but when you sip it, it's light as air. So that's the body is small. It's weak. It's a weak body.
So this one, basically, if you have it chilled like mine, it's more like an aperitif. You can have it in a hot summer afternoon on its own. But this one will pair well with Australian ribs or actually any ribs, grilled food. This also is the kind of red wine that will pair with most foods that pair with white wine.
I can see this with fish.
But this is very drinkable red wine. Yeah.
You might go through a bottle in one night easily because it's so light. You don't feel that big gut in your mouth.
Dude, you might. You will.
Yeah,
this is
the character of
deadly.
the wine.
It's what you call a risky bottle. You know what I mean?
Silves would like one of these for sure, man.
One or two, maybe three.
One thing that you'll be able to smell here is cloves. It has a lot of cloves, like a peppery.
Yeah, I got that. I got the whole peppery vibe.
So the characteristic of this one is more of
John Joe. He knows his peppers. If there's anyone here.
Puta, may sile.
No, like black pepper,
yes.
red and black pepper.
Okay, wait. Let me try and get that peppery taste. There could be something wrong with my nose.
It's a complete contrast with the other one. The first one had a stronger alcohol taste to begin with, and it was heavy in the mouth. This one is much lighter, and there's no citrus.
But if you'll notice, the first wine we had, the Viognier, was a very light acidity. Not your common white wine, very acidic.
And this
it's
one?
A light acidity.
How about
Viognier has the lowest acidity. Grenache also has a lower acidity as well. So this one would be closer to your Zinfandel or your Pinot Noir.
Yeah, actually, let me see that. I think I have that here. In the let me share that with you again.
It was in the chart that you put in earlier.
Yeah, is it here? Where's the Grenache? Zinfandel. So it's somewhere around the Zinfandel.
You have to go back a bit.
Back. Okay. Yeah. It's near the Zinfandel, right? Actually, there was another one.
But if you go
here.
up on top where Pinot Noir is, Grenache, Pinot Noir.
Grenache, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's basically.
But if you notice, look at it, Mari. There's a line that when it says, there's a line, there's a white line right on top of Grenache, and there's a white line right under Zinfandel. That's why I said from Grenache to Zinfandel.
Oh, you know your stuff, buddy. That's it.
To the T.
To the T. Grenache to Zinfandel. There you go.
Kailangan eh.
Yeah, you put a dude. You've been 10 years, pare. So and you know what I also it's not very sweet. You know what I mean? Which I like. I don't like too sweet, right? And yeah. So I'm this one I can trip on. Good stuff, buddy. Good stuff.
This one was one of the first Grenache planted in Australia as well. So actually the Samuels collection highlights the risk that Samuel Smith took. He was actually a gold miner and he got a piece of gold or found a piece of gold. And now they say he has converted it to liquid gold, which is now the wine that we're enjoying today after 170 years. It's called Yalumba.
Dude, John Joe, if you can only talk that way to sell our beer, man.
I do.
Yeah, but you notice how wine can be so damn romantic, pare. Right?
Yes, it
I
can.
mean, it really can be so romantic, pare.
We can just adjust our terms. Like we could say that Pearl's Craft started in Ayala Alabang Village.
I like that. We can adjust the
Yeah,
terms.
the village, the basement in the village. Good stuff. Okay, what's the third one, George?
Oh, the third one is our Shiraz. So this one is a
Shiraz.
Barossa Shiraz. Yes. So the
Noticeably
Australians
dark.
are known.
That's
Yeah,
dark,
they're known for
man.
this. So this one has a very plum aroma. This one is full of plum and black peppers. You'll get some hints of chocolate and some tea.
How about black currant? I'm getting some currant in this.
Yes, you have some black currant there and black raspberries as well.
I got some currant. Okay, that's 1 point for Cuervo.
So this is a steak wine.
And also
This is-
some cassis. This has cassis.
Ah,
So this one was planted in 1843 at Eden Valley. So this one, because it's coming from the Eden Valley, Barossa, it has a cooler expression of Shiraz as compared to your Chilean Shiraz, which they call Syrah. This one comes from a cooler climate, hence giving the wine more bolder, mature flavor. Matured in 10 months oak. The oak that they use is French, American, and Hungarian oak. And Yalumba is the only Southern Hemisphere wine company to have its own cooperage where they build and make their own wine barrels.
okay, I'm getting this thing in the back of my mouth.
Yeah,
It's like
I was
it's
gonna
like
say.
I'm getting this thing coming out. You know what I mean? I'm getting the oak. I'm really getting a lot of oak, and then my salivary glands are acting up. Okay,
That just goes to show you that I'm an amateur because I'm not really getting any of that.
You're
I'm
not-
just getting
you're
that
not
it's a
feeling
good wine.
dude, I'm getting.
I'm feeling
I know, man.
in another
I'm-
way.
Try like gargling it between your teeth and stuff,
Yeah.
just a bit of it.
It's
And
giving. You know
Actually,
what I mean?
the proper way is either to aerate it in the glass or to aerate it in your mouth this way, like you're sipping
I'm getting
soup.
plum.
Yeah, you like suck. Yeah, that's it. You go. It's like you're gargling it, but you're sucking it.
I won't do that.
But
Don't
when you do
even
that,
say it.
Okay, let's watch what we're
It's-
saying. Let's
It-
watch
it's-
the terms.
Yeah, it's like eating a banana in front of your friend. You never
Oh,
look your friend straight in the eye and eat the banana. So you
Well,
can't also-
cheers to that, guys. Cheers to that.
Cheers.
Tap the screen. Cheers to
Okay,
this.
I'm really getting this this salivary movement going on. It's like champoy, pare. It doesn't
Yeah.
taste like champoy, but wow. What's doing that?
So
What's
this one
doing
is
that?
that's
Ooh.
the acidity in the wine as well, of course. That's one factor. And
Okay.
of course, that one also has to do with the grape variety Shiraz. So Shiraz has a peppery characteristic. They actually slightly toast the inside of the barrel to give it like a smoky hint. And that also is the reason why you salivate as well.
and that's
Like a
why
beautiful
it's dark.
girl's name, Shiraz.
It's also darker. That's why it's darker in color.
And this one's
Yeah.
91 points, James Suckling. This also wild ferment and it's also vegan. It's 14.5% alcohol. So this has the highest.
The highest.
alcohol content.
Nice.
So this one, the vintage of this one is 2017. So
And we're gonna get to talk to you about value in wines, right? George, I wanted to let's see. There's another thing I wanted to discuss with you, which we touched a little bit. Food pairing, right? Let's talk about food
Yeah.
pairing. So, what exactly? Okay, so in food pairing, it's a whole. What's the rule of thumb, or is it really subjective? I mean, like for something like
Well-
this, which is bolder, okay, where you get your salivating, thing going on in your mouth. What would this pair well with?
basically the default is White wine goes with your cheeses and your seafoods and your salads. Basically, starters and aperitifs should be white wine. That's the default. Then your lighter red wine should go with white game or like white meat, while
Okay.
your darker red wine should go with darker game or darker meat. So that's
Okay.
the rule of
Okay.
thumb. That's the basic. But
But it's not necessary. People now are changing ways, right? They can drink whatever they
yes.
want. Yeah. Okay.
So like I mentioned earlier, the second wine we had, the Grenache, is basically a red wine, but it is to pair with anything that pairs with white wine. That's how food friendly it is. That
So
it
it's
actually
versatile.
ventures into that.
It's the middle
And
ground.
if you chill the red wine, you lower the tannin level or the bitterness in your mouth. That helps lower the tannin. That's why some restaurants, what they do, like especially your sangria, you lower the tannin to increase the brandy or the alcohol sweetness in the juice that you put in your sangria, hence giving your customer a more enjoyable experience of drinking the red wine.
Ah,
But
there
of
you
course, the
go.
alcohol content is still all in there.
So they get shit faced later on.
And then some default is you have sparkling wine for vegetables and dry white wines for vegetables. If you're roasting your vegetables, then you have light red wines or medium red wines or dry white wines as well. Then if
Okay.
you have soft cheeses, you have dessert wine, sparkling wine, sweet wine, and rich wines like Viognier and Chardonnay. These are for the soft cheeses like Brie.
Okay,
While your hard cheeses,
how about for Mexican food, man? You want Mexican food, chili, things like that. What goes well with that?
so if you have spice and you want to counter it, you use a Riesling to counter the spice. If you want it to complement the spice, then you give them a Shiraz. You put spice with spice as well. So the food and
Ah,
the wine complements each other.
so this is the Shiraz.
Yes.
Good stuff, man.
So for hard cheeses, you have sweet white wine, sparkling, medium-bodied red wines like the Zinfandel you had, or bold red wines like Malbec, Cabernet, or Shiraz. For most of the starch, any starch, any wine pairs with starch. That's a given fact. With fish, it's either dry white wines, rich red wines, or sparkling wines.
So pasta and pizza, pretty much you can get anything you want.
You can pair. It just depends on your toppings. If you wanna be, more conscious of the pairing, it depends on the toppings. For crustaceans, you have light reds like Pinot Noir, and you have rich whites like Viognier. For white
Okay.
meats, like I said, you have medium bodied, which is your Grenache or Zinfandel for white meats. And then you have Pinot Noir and you have Chardonnay.
Okay, I'm
And then
sure you, yeah, I'm sure you watch some wine movies, right? And we were just discussing this with Iken. We watched what was that? Sideways, right?
Sideways. Merlot.
Sideways.
I hate Merlot.
Yeah, what's up? What's up with the Merlot, man? I mean, this guy starts shooting down Merlot, and I guess there was some effect from that movie. So I started reading up on it. I read up on Merlot. Apparently, that grape is like easily grown.
Yeah, Merlot is
Yeah.
available everywhere.
Okay, you gotta. That's that scene, right? That's a scene where he tells him off. He says, "If any of those guys order Merlot, he's not drinking Merlot, right?" Sideways, good movie, very good movie.
I'm leaving. I am
But it
not
was
drinking
funny.
any fucking
So this
Merlot.
guy, I mean, he was into his Pinot. He loves his
Yeah.
Pinot, right? So why Pinot? Apparently Pinot is a very hard grape to grow.
And they're small.
Basically, remember, like I mentioned earlier, Pinot Noir is what champagne is made of. So since champagne became the alpha class kind of grape variety that everybody wanted, um, most Californian wine companies produce Sangiovese, Pinot, and Zinfandel and Cabernets. Those are the main. So if you have someone Merlot, basically everybody has a Merlot, and Merlot's the most easy drinking wine. It's a no-brainer. You're not a wine drinker, and I'm a waiter. I want to upsell you something. I'll offer you a Merlot because you can't go wrong with it. Basically, it's a default.
Okay, makes sense. It's like a
Right.
no-brainer.
Talking
not his
about
fault.
talking about movies, I do want to suggest something that I really, really like. It's called Bottle Shock. It's with Professor Snape, Alan Rickman. Alan Rickman is a snobby wine connoisseur. He's from, I think, France or Italy at the time. And he goes to America. This is where you also have the divide of based on actual events. This dude goes to America and he finds out about Californian wines. And then everyone back home is like, oh, yuck, California wine. And it's all like rednecks and hillbillies growing it. And then they join the international tasting competition. Well, obviously, we know what happens. Who wins? And it's blind tasting and it's Californian wines. And then that's where it starts, the old world versus new world. Because, correct me if I'm wrong, George, but as of the last decade, there are more awards by New World wines than Old World wines.
That's
Oh,
correct.
I gotta watch that then.
It's
I gotta
funny.
watch that.
It's really funny because obviously it starts off with the premise that no one wants to believe him, and if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, he's a reviewer, and they just really make fun of him. Like there's no such thing as good wine from America, and that's what starts the boom, the Californian wine boom.
Well, you're wrong in that. Now California wine really has good wines.
Okay, yeah, that's why it's a story of how it started.
Yeah.
Somebody had to start it first.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
true. Yeah. Basically,
And that,
like now, a lot of people are notice. Just for example, in the whiskey category, you had Cavalan, which no one ever wanted to touch before, but it won so many awards because in a blind tasting, it kicked all those Scottish whiskeys out, and now
Yeah.
people are noticing that hey, an Asian country can actually produce a really good whiskey.
Yeah, yeah, that's good.
Just
That's
like
true.
you guys winning in the international.
Yeah,
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 there you
blind
go.
tasting,
Nice
man. Blind
segue.
tasting. You know, you're right, dude. We got some nerds out there who just try to shoot us down because we're local. So we joined the blind tasting competition abroad, and boom, silver medal, man. I mean,
And
really.
now they want to buy your bottle, but initially they were, I don't
Yeah, this
know.
thing, parang gawang
So
alabang.
that's the
Village, Alabang Village. Please don't forget
Yeah,
Village.
dude, what
Village.
the hell's that shit, diba?
But that's the important thing about it. Point system for me is very important as well. But you have to get the right critics to follow. Basically, there can be other people who critic the wine, but then they're just going as let's be honest about it. Some people are paid critics, so they
Yeah.
don't really give you the down low.
Okay, George, let's move on. Value wines. Okay, let's talk about value in wines, right? So there's so many wines out there. Let's talk about, well, let's say Shiraz, right? I mean, you can go from $5 bottle of wines to, I don't know, you can go crazy, right? So tell us about that. I mean, I think, there's an app, right? Vivino. I have that app. I'm trying to learn. You know what I mean? You take a photo of a label and you look at the value, look at the rating, and I think it's a real challenge to find value in wine, right? So it's like you don't have to buy the really crazy labels. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, tell us a little bit about that.
So Vivino is a good app. I like it. The only problem is Vivino is used mostly by foreign countries. So you'll notice the price ranges that you see in Vivino are not the prices that you see here, even if it's converted into peso. You'll notice sometimes it's lower in Vivino, and then you're shocked why it's so expensive. And you'll credit that saying that the wine company is trying to make money, but it's not actually the matter. Yeah, it's not taken into consideration is the shipping of the wines from foreign country coming into the Philippines.
Correct.
So basically, those are not factors included. For me, an everyday drinking Shiraz would be something in the price range of 475 pesos to 575 pesos. That would
Nice.
be the value for money. I mean, you get the premium quality coming from a good house, something decent that you won't be pahiya with your guests that you're hosting in your house, enough to impress and make a good dinner over good company and good conversation, celebrating the wine.
Nice. Okay, good. Good to know. Another point I wanted to discuss with you is collecting, right? Wine collection. If you were to start a wine collection, right? First of all, how would you where do you begin? Like if you
Well,
wanna, have
the first
something
step
in your,
you
yeah.
the first step you guys need to do is contact me and buy a Panasonic chiller.
Okay.
Oh,
Once
wait. I want to interject. I think before you start collecting, you have to take into consideration where you're going to store your
that's
wines
why you
because
have to
that's
buy the
Well,
very
that's
original
the
important.
next
equipment.
one.
That's what I
That's the
said.
next one. Here's the next one. Storing wine. That was my next slide. But anyway, we can
Okay.
jump there. So
So
storing
basically,
wine.
you have to first buy the Panasonic chiller, and you have to decide whether you want to save 24, 72, or 102 bottles. And
Okay.
of course,
Because
you have
yeah,
to find a
wait.
place.
Those are those refs, right? That are
Yeah,
temperature controlled, and
correct.
you can find them in SNR or whatever, right? Some of these places. And so
Yeah.
if you were to buy 24
Start
bottles
your
of wine,
collection.
yeah, start your collection. Where do you begin? You go through the whole range, or do you go to the ones you like?
Basically, you would have to get first the wines that you know would age for more than 5 years.
Mm,
Of course,
Okay.
everybody who has a wine collection has the wines that they have everyday drinking wine. So there's three levels in your refrigerator. One level is the my everyday wine. The next level is special occasion, and the bottom is I'll only open this on a very 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 special occasion.
Like something like New Year's dinner, or yeah,
Correct.
anniversary, a birthday.
Lost his
Okay.
virginity.
No, yeah. Now here's the thing. How crazy can you get when you buy the third level? I mean, you hear of 500 peso wines, and then you can go to where?
well,
50,000?
to be honest, the 500 peso and 800 pesos are really not wines that you are supposed to age. So
yeah.
the aging wines start at 1,450 to 1,850. These are the wines that
Ah,
you want to keep in a collection. So these
okay.
ones have a store value or aging value for 3 to 5 years. And then you go
Okay.
to the higher tier, which is like Purple Angel and them that comes out in the 3,500 to 5,000 range. So
Okay.
that one is
Okay.
your. Then you go to your icon wines, which are like Taita and Signature, which would fall under the more than. This would be like 14, 17,000 up to 20,000 peso wines.
Jesus Christ.
I'll
But
tell
I
you, there
won't
was
go
this
to that yet.
wine.
But hey,
Yeah.
there's this one. It's called Opus One, and the one bottle is 40,000 pesos.
Holy shit.
So
Okay,
Why?
listen,
yeah,
there was this one dinner I went to a friend's house long time ago, and they brought out this wine for everyone, and it was I'll never forget the name because I looked for it because I remember it so well because it was, I mean, I'm not a wine drinker, but I enjoyed it very much. And it was the Chateauneuf du Pape.
up, yeah.
Okay, it's a French wine, right? And it was very good. Is that pretty much because I guess it was very special, and
Yeah,
it
Chateau
can
Neuf de
cost,
Pop is
yeah.
a very special wine and comes from a special region as well. It's hard to find in the Philippines as well. The rarity of Chateau Neuf de Pop in the Philippines is rare to find, but there are
Okay.
a lot of wine importers now bringing it in. And I would say that's for a special occasion, definitely.
Yes, yes. At least it was free for me.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
okay.
basically,
Yeah, go ahead.
if it was aged properly, then you would get lighter tannins and more character of that wine. And if you paired it with you're celebrating, I'm sure you had a good dinner. So the pairing
Yes.
was perfect. The wine was complemented
Oh
by the food
man,
as well.
it was very
Is
good.
is it
Very
is
good.
it better to create a cellar in your home or just buy the refrigerated unit? Because a lot of people have, like, there's even the automated cellar that I believe there's a video you can find on YouTube. They press a button and in the middle of the kitchen, the kitchen counter goes up like Batman, and then there's a
Yeah.
spiral staircase going down, and it's all wines underneath the kitchen.
Well,
Like,
if you have enough money to burn and you're buying Hill of Grace 55,000 per bottle, then go ahead. But I would rather invest it in the bottles because as of now, like what
Exactly.
Mari was saying, wine is a stock market, and now you can actually sell wines and actually use it as collateral already. Not like
oh
before, wines were just something that you can drink
yeah,
and
are, are
party.
Are there local auctions for wines?
Local auctions, not that I know of. Well, we do have auctions that we did, like for our Grand Wine experience, we had an auction for the typhoon victims to raise funds for them. So basically, all the premium wines that we had during the Grand Wine, we auctioned to raise funds for Yolanda.
Okay,
So
good.
I think those
That's
are the
brilliant.
ones that, yeah.
Okay, let's move
There'll be
on. Let's
no
move
Grand
on
Wine
to
this year, definitely,
yeah,
but
for
next year
sure.
will be a joint celebration.
Okay, George, we're moving on to the next segment. It's called This or That. Okay, you're going to have to pick one. Okay, not both, just one. And this segment
Okay.
is brought to you by our new Crow's Nest Agricultura rum. I don't know if you've had a chance to try it. But you should. It's good
Not yet
rum.
tried, but I saw it on Cyril De La Rosa's page.
Yeah, this is made only from freshly pressed sugar cane. Fresh, man, fresh. And definitely no sugar added. You've got to try this. It's a great base for any cocktail. So here we go.
Okay, John,
Let's
you owe me a
start.
bottle.
Here we go. This or that?
Shiraz.
Definitely a Shiraz. Huh? So now we know, Iken, when we see, was that Syrah? It's the same thing as saying Shiraz. So it's just,
Love it.
yeah.
Like
Okay. So, but then this guy in the movie likes the Pinot, but yeah, Shiraz. I can see it. It's really, what's it? Bolder, definitely bolder. Yeah.
There's more of a mouth feel.
Yeah. Okay. This or that? I don't know why.
That.
See, I knew it. I bet you George is wearing slippers now. I knew it. That's why.
So John Joe told me you gotta put this in there, man. I said okay. So I mean, what else are you gonna wear?
I honestly go to work in slippers sometimes. I think it gives a whole element to myself that I feel at home.
Yes.
Just that sometimes when I enter buildings in BGC, they stop me. And I'm like, what? Sir, bawal po chinelas.
Okay, next. Is it a seaside resort or a mountain resort?
Seaside, I would go for this.
Definitely, me too. I don't know. I mean, it looks pretty cool, especially this one here, this mountain resort. But there's nothing like the sea, man.
And it seems colder. If you're up in the mountain, it's
it
colder.
depends what you have, by the way.
Wait. Question: Are there any vineyards that are beachside? Because more often than not, they're at the sides of the mountains, the terrain. Are there any
terroir.
terrain?
Yung natira.
Are there
There's
any
mostly
beach
you can't
vineyards?
really say beach. It's more coastal.
Coastal, okay.
So New Zealand wines would be like that then.
Well, New Zealand wine, there's also French wine like Le Granois is coastal, and Piramima is next to a. Remember, Mark Conroy said he rides his horses, crosses the vineyard, and swims in the beach.
Oh, that's cool.
Wait, George, I got a question about vintage, right? The year.
Yeah.
When is it a good year for that grape? Let's just talk about Burgundy wine, right? Okay. So say it's 2020 and they're harvesting in when's the harvest season for the Burgundies, but how will you know this is gonna be a good wine or a good vintage?
So basically, you want less rain because you want the grapes to naturally get their water. You don't want to irrigate it. All vineyards don't irrigate, by the way. It's all Mother Nature that does it. So for example, I don't know, I'll give an example of Californian. You guys were able to see that there was a forest fire.
It's dry, yeah.
So the vintage of those wines would probably be more expensive, hence because some vineyards were affected and burned down. So now the produce will be less in quantity. So they have to put up the price to make up and wait for the new seedlings or the new cuttings to grow.
That makes sense. Like when there's a typhoon or a hurricane that passes by and all that, it degrades the quality.
If there's a drought, If there's a drought, if there's rain, if there's fire or famine, that even insect infestation before. Well, now we already have the technology to to remove the insects and anything that attacks the crops. But then and vegan wines and organic wines, they have no fertilizer, they have no pesticide. So this plays a factor into the vintage of that wine. So actually, me when I enter a wine shop, I don't see wine bottles. I actually see different stories of different wines. So I think that's the perception that how people should look at wine.
What? That's awesome, man. You're definitely a connoisseur, buddy boy. Really. Okay, this or that.
That.
Okay, a Riesling.
I like my Rieslings, but I also love Chardonnay. But you said I can't choose both.
Yeah. So, but if you had a choice, definitely you'll go Riesling.
Yeah.
Now,
Riesling,
if you notice, there's no tannins, right? So compared to red wine, there's tannin, but in white wine, there's no tannin.
there's no tannin, but then the phenols affect they call it white phenolics, which is like the white tannin. But technically, tannin comes from the skin, and white wine has no skin contact. So you really get the character or the finish from the phenols during the aging process. So the reason why I chose Riesling is because your Riesling can be both dry and sweet. So you have it's a more versatile wine. As your Chardonnay is a one type of wine only.
It's one single dimension.
Yeah. But you know what you're getting with the Chardonnay.
Yeah. Okay,
I will go with this.
You'll go with the hash, huh? The corned beef hash, okay?
Hell yeah. I'm with you there, dude.
Dude, of course I'm gonna go with the hash, dude. This is perfect.
Me, no. I don't know. I go with that. I like it when it's big.
Yeah, you'll go with that. The problem with that is that you'll put a lot of sauce to change the taste when you're eating a lot. While the hash, every bite is different.
That corned beef hash in a diner. Let me get some of that corned beef.
You can make
so good.
By the way, Philippine wine sells corned beef. By the way.
What?
Really? Oh shit! We gotta order that, dude. We gotta order.
But John Joe, you got a point there. You can turn it into that. That's
Wait.
But it's made na. So.
Explain the corn. Wait, there's corned beef now in Philippine wine because everyone thinks it's just wine.
No, we are food
I know
and
you
beverage.
you guys have glasses as well. So what else?
We have glassware. We have Panasonic chillers. We have pull taps. We also had corned beef, but it was from Heinz, the people who make the ketchup and the hot sauce. Yeah, so.
We gotta check out. We're gonna put in the description everything that has to do with Philippine wines and what you do, your contact details. People who want to know more, obviously, we'll put it all in the description. Okay, here's the last one. Boom. Are you this or that?
I like that.
See?
Okay. What? Hey, look! I finally found, Iken. I finally found the answer to this riddle over here. Do you know that it was patented in 1891? There it is. That's the real patent of the toilet paper. We won.
Yeah, no.
It's
because it was patented. But as I mentioned before, this was the time that Coca-Cola actually had cocaine in Coca-Cola.
What's that got to do with the toilet paper?
Okay.
Whoever did this was on drugs.
No, I mean it's just hilarious.
I wouldn't pull my toilet paper this way because you never know the first person who touched it. While in the other way you're more protected because you first get an inner, it rolls around your hand to make the second layer, and then you scoop.
I don't know what you guys are on, but you're definitely siblings because you guys. That's I can't. I can't, man. It's got to be the other way. I
think it's because our mother fixed all the bathrooms in the house a certain way every time. So
and so you got used to it, right?
we're programmed.
So okay, thank you so much, George, for joining us. I've learned a little bit more. I mean, there's so much to learn. By the way, I had to ask you, are you planning to be a sommelier? You're on your way, so are you gonna plan to be a sommelier?
Yes, actually, I'm a Madrid, and I'm certified to teach and give certificate. We'll wait for probably next year after this COVID is over, or if the online courses will be available online. Then
Yeah, because I
why
mean,
not?
you're almost there.
The limitation
You
now
know
is we
your
have to fly
wine.
to Hong Kong or Singapore to take the class.
Yeah, I mean, I was watching Som, right, a
I'll be honest though,
documentary. Yeah.
what you learn, what you learn in the class, what you learn in the class is different from what you learn in real life. I mean, I learned a lot from my
Practical
uncles, and
use.
my uncles are like walking encyclopedias of wine.
So I mean, they can
So, and you can now
when you give
Google
them
and watch
a
everything
glass, can they
online
tell you the
as well
exact wine?
every time.
George, when you give your uncles a glass, can they figure it out? Can they decipher the vintage, the all of that stuff?
I think my uncle Ronnie definitely yes.
Wow, wow. That's impressive, man. That's really impressive. Hey, so we're gonna put all the information, John Joe, of George and Philippine wines in the description. So those who want to learn more about wines, do not be afraid. Do not be in, there shouldn't be any fear. It's like discovering something new. I mean, I want to learn more about wines, even if I'm not gonna be making wine, but hey, we enjoy wine, right? Good wine is good wine.
And
So yeah.
George, you also conduct wine tasting seminars like this, where you get the
Yes.
samplers delivered to you, and then it's a Zoom meet, diba? You still do
You can
those?
actually opt to buy the bottles, and I can join you guys for the class. So I do the class, and then after I'm done with the class, you guys can drink and make kwentuhan after that. So,
That's
and this is a
awesome,
free
man.
service I'm doing for my clients, for you guys to learn more about wines. Basically, the philosophy of our company is we want to bring the wine knowledge into more people.
Yeah.
We don't judge as well. To be honest, a lot of people ask me always if I consider Novellino as a wine. Yes, I consider Novellino as a wine, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Novellino is one of those wines that have opened the doors to the D, C, and B, E even maybe levels for people to start enjoying wine.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because you gotta train your
And
palate to
once
accept that
you have
flavor.
We just got a
So
puppy
yeah.
named Vino, so we gotta get used to drinking more
Wait,
wine.
I have questions, but before we go, quick
Sure, sure.
Go
questions.
for it.
Okay,
All
Sure.
you.
because back in the day when I had your job, it was a big issue that it was corked wines versus plastic corks. Now the problem with corked wines is that it breaks in time. It gets marupok. It breaks. It becomes dusty. And then now it's all rubber or synthetic corks. What are your thoughts on that, George?
So you're asking me the difference between synthetic cork and real cork. So the difference to me for the cut down trees and synthetic cork, you don't have to cut down trees. The only difference of synthetic cork, while real cork is um, specifically put there by the winemaker because he wants the wine to age for a longer period of time, hence allowing a little oxygen to enter the wine to make the wine grow and breathe through the years. While synthetic corks are more for the fast moving wines, and most of them nowadays are all twist cap.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I
Yeah.
prefer twist cap over cork. Why? Number one, twist cap is vacuum sealed and you're secured of the freshness of the wine. When I open this, I should smell fresh snow. The only way it can get spoiled is if, of course, you put it in direct sunlight or you open the cork. I open the twist cap. Sorry.
Yeah, makes sense. I fully understand now what you're saying about twist caps. I mean, it's maybe not as romantic as the cork, but it makes sense. You save trees. You know, you have the vacuum seal of the twist cap, which makes more sense. You know, you don't have sediments falling into the wine like corks would do. So it's similar to craft beer. I mean, in the US now, craft beer, most of them are in cans because, you know, it doesn't get sunstruck. It's a better way to keep oxygen out. So, you know, but of course, when you're talking about the whole romance of bottle on how it was,
drama,
the cork, the drama of uncorking and all of that, it does something. It's the ceremony.
Weird. Imagine drinking wine out of a can.
I mean,
It makes your
I don't know.
it makes your wine. It makes the value times 2. It makes the beer times 2 as well.
Exactly. But yeah, it makes, you know, these are the little things that you learn when you get in touch with George. We'll leave all the information for those who are interested in taking their wine journey. I mean, that's what it is. It's a journey. I mean, might as well. I mean, you're in COVID, you're at home.
You can learn something during quarantine.
Learn something during quarantine. Order some wine, talk to George. He'll lead you through the whole list, right? And I think that's a good way to start. Like right now, I plan to start. I mean, why not, right? You're gonna plan your meal. Might as well plan your wine and what you want to drink your meal with. So George, with that, thank you so much for joining us at Crow's Talk. And I hope we can learn more. Maybe have you another time.
Round 2. Can we do sake?
Oh, we should. We should do a round 2.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do sake.
Sake mom.
Oh, perfect. See, that I don't know anything about sake.
Neither do I.
The good.
So
Okay, I'll save it for the round 2 then. Yeah, I'll save it for round 2.
Yes. Thank you, guys, and you have a good one, man. Thank you. Cheers, buddy.
Thank you.